Welcome to The Good Life with Nat and Kat, and today we'd like to start a conversation about small talk.
Small talk used to make me so nervous. What about you?
Yeah, me too. I'm a little better at it now, I would say.
I think it takes some practice and maybe a few habits, and that's what we want to chat about today. Because, I remember going to an event, like a networking event, and seeing people strike up a conversation with a stranger and think, how do you do that? How do you start a conversation with a stranger? But, very often we're waiting for people to start a conversation with us, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I think we have to have the courage to try starting a conversation with somebody else.
Yeah, I agree. And, I found, because I was in retail for 30 years, I used to see a customer at a distance and I'd be like, oh, geez, even though they're in the store, I know what they want to talk about. I have to go up, I have to have some kind of conversation with them. And I think that really helped me a lot because I'm quite introverted, as people wouldn't realize it, but I am.
Yep.
And that did help me.
And I'm the same. I'm introverted. I've learned to be extroverted. I love people, but I was always afraid of them. I didn't know how to open a conversation for the longest time. And now I found a few little ways, because I really feel this idea that, when we're waiting for somebody else to come and talk to us, we're missing opportunity after opportunity after opportunity.
Yeah.
And it could be, we have so many people living with us at the Wellings who don't know each other, who make new friends, and the only way you're going to make a new friend is by striking up a conversation.
And to be honest, what I find is if people living with us embrace that and realize everybody there is there to have a social experience for the most part, it just makes them learn to live in a community so much more quickly.
Right. And we're not used to that. I mean, if you've been the CEO in your home, you know the people living there. You don't have to work at that. But when we move into community, I remember going to boarding school when I was 13 years old. I went from 13 to 17. I didn't know anybody, but it was a whole new community, and I had to get to know people in a different way. So you have to have courage to do that. And we have a few ideas we can suggest in a few moments to sort of learn to strike up conversation. And I think when you try it and make it a bit of a practice, you'll find it's really actually very simple. It's mainly our fear that gets in the way, because we're wired for safety. We're wired for survival. So why would I want to talk to somebody I don't know?
Yeah, well, and it's true, right? And then you never know if they're going to look at you like, what do you want with me? Where really we're just trying to make a connection. Or sometimes I will look at somebody and say, what a beautiful outfit you have on, and their whole face lights up.
Yes.
And it just makes me feel good to do it. So you might connect.
Yeah.
You might, out of curiosity, end up having a conversation and a coffee with somebody that instead of sitting by yourself.
And that's the key right there, is because we're wired for survival and safety, we're afraid to talk to people because we don't have all the information about what it's going to be like until we start a conversation. So it could be that your conversation is just for the moment, or it could be that your conversation is going to forge a new friendship, one that you may not have expected. And we know from experience that people who move in with us at the Wellings make new friends.
Yes.
There is a social life. This is what, one of the most important keys we've found to longevity is this idea of connection and community.
Yes.
Having relationships, having a social life is so important. I remember my mom, when she got older, moved out of our family home into an apartment alone, and then into a smaller apartment alone. That was not a good idea. It was so lonely. She didn't have people like in her little community she could count on, maybe one or two, but it really wasn't a vibrant social life.
Yeah, and I would also say it's important that you're connecting with people your own age.
Yeah, that's true.
Outside of your family, right? Because sometimes the stories that you've told your family and your closest friends over and over again don't light them up anymore. But a very simple little story about something that you love doing, like the gardening or, things like this, just will bring you a little spark of joy.
And you never know the commonalities. I think that's the other thing. We think, because we're afraid to make new connections, we don't know everything before we make those connections, but you don't know how much you have in common with other people until you start talking to them. So to your point, one of the things I like to suggest is, off the top, find a compliment to give somebody, whether it's about something they're wearing or their smile or their eyes or their hair, just something to make that instant connection. And then make sure to ask people to tell you just a little bit about themselves, like, where did you go to school? What's your favorite band? Do you have a favorite movie? These are all simple questions we can use and have these little ideas in our pocket to help us connect with other people.
Well, and the other thing I would say is, it's okay if they don't want to talk to you. You know, like
true.
sometimes I'll say something like, oh, what a lovely so-and-so, and they just look at me and I think, well, okay.
Okay.
You're not on my wavelength
That's
today.
right, and that's
That's
okay.
okay. We just move on.
That's right. But to be the person making that initial gesture, I think really builds resilience in us, especially
think
if you're not used to it. I know I had to get used to it. Starting my business, I had to go to networking events and meet people and find commonalities. Also, asking open-ended questions.
Yes,
Not
that's a
questions
great
that have a
tip.
yes or a no, so you get a little bit more information out of the other people. And lastly, I think it's important to wrap up with grace. You know, if you're having a chat with somebody and it's time to wrap it up, just say, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I'm going to go and refill my teacup, or I'm going to go and chat to some more people. So, you know,
Gracefully
it's
exit.
always, exit gracefully, graciously, just do it politely. And you'll never put a foot wrong if you just say to somebody, how are you today?
Oh, I love this.
Just ask
Have a
that simple question.
fantastic day, everybody. Thank you so much for contributing. If you have any questions or comments for us, let us know.
We'd love that.
Have a great day.